Good afternoon. My name is Kelly King and I'm a primary teacher at Terrigal Public School, which is on the central coast of New South Wales, about an hour north of Sydney. Today I'm going to talk about my experience teaching pleasurable food education to primary school students and the benefits they gain in lifelong learning. You may ask, what has this got to do with waste management issues or the waste industry? The pleasurable food education journey has changed the culture of Terrigal Public School. The students and the staff have begun to examine the impact their actions have on their environment, and participating in the Stephanie Alexander program saw the establishment of a working vegetable and herb garden, a small orchard, a flock of chooks, and the installation of a school kitchen. These were all steps towards shaping a more sustainably aware students and school community. When the Rumballara Environmental Education Centre received funding from Central Coast Council to deliver a Wiping Out Waste program in 2019, Terrigal Public School was one of 9 schools chosen to participate in a waste audit, and the pilot program ran in conjunction with Cleanaway's No Waste, designed to help schools reduce waste to landfill, maximising resource recovery by creating a zero waste culture in school communities. I'm going to share with you my experiences as a teacher, working with children and the wider community, and how our program has motivated students to change their everyday actions, working towards being a waste-free school. I'm actually left-handed, so this is a little bit strange for me. Okay. I'll start by explaining what is pleasurable food education, the background of the program at my school, measuring success, and how food education links with waste reduction in working towards being a waste-free school. What is pleasurable food education? Pleasurable food education teaches children to grow, harvest, prepare and share fresh, seasonal, delicious food in order to form positive food habits for life. We're starting to see more and more schools and businesses become involved in the food journey, with the emergence of cafes and restaurants creating the paddock to plate seasonal dining experience. The Stephanie Alexander program has students alternating between weekly garden and kitchen lessons, and they grow and harvest vegetables, turning them into delicious meals eaten in a shared dining experience. Pleasurable. When we think back to our schooling, we might have a variety of memories. Some of them might be good, some of them might be bad. The great thing about teaching food education is it's an easy sell. It's a whole lot of fun and it's really pleasurable. I'm yet to see a child who doesn't love pulling a carrot out that they've grown from seed or putting dough through a machine to make spaghetti. Food education explores where food comes from, and students begin to examine their habits and the kinds of food their family eat and where they source their fruit and vegetables. It's introduced in the early years. At my school, we teach the program to 9 and 10-year-old children, and at this age, they're just gaining their independence, and it's great for building their confidence, and they feel like really big kids when they're in the garden and the kitchen. Quite often, they're performing tasks that their parents won't let them do at home. With practical hands-on lessons, every week we alternate between cooking and garden weeks, and every lesson has a practical aspect, whether it be in the kitchen preparing a dish or in the garden planting seeds, watering or weeding or harvesting. And it gets the kids out of the classroom, off their devices and learning practical and relevant skills. Teamwork. Kitchen and garden lessons require the children to problem solve and work closely within a group. Some children have absolutely no idea whatsoever in the kitchen or in the garden, so we begin each year with the basics. The children all learn how to get their wheelbarrow licence, their knife licence and their tool licence. And by the end of the first year, they should be able to independently follow a simple recipe and prepare a basic meal. The shared dining experience gives the children the opportunity to not only enjoy delicious food they have prepared, it also provides a social setting that many students don't get at home. They're served a small portion of each of the 4 dishes that they have made and an example of a menu that the kids would have. would be broad bean dip with flatbread, spaghetti with ricotta and rocket, pumpkin scones, and then followed with salad of the imagination. And parents get great pleasure from seeing their children explore new foods they would never have tried in the home setting. And some students, the concept of sitting down and sharing a meal at a table is something they have never experienced in their home life. In the garden, students are observing the changes in the seasons, and they understand the correlation between seed germination and soil temperature, and that different vegetables are grown at different times of the year. And they learn that when you have an abundance of a produce, you learn to cook that in a variety of ways. When you've taught children at school for a long time, you know that when the kids say, "Can I take this home?" that you're on a winner. And the kids say this all the time when they are in the kitchen garden program. Whether they want the seeds that you've just collected in the garden or they want a copy of the recipe that you've just made, the children want to share these new skills with their extended family. And this is why teaching food education is so powerful. Exposing children to good food habits and teaching them the skills to grow, harvest, prepare and share is lifelong learning. With 1 in 4 people in Australia overweight or obese, the program talks about food in a fun, hands-on way. It gives children the skills to cook simple, nutritious, vegetarian-based meals, and by the end of the program, children will have the skills to cook a collection of meals using seasonal produce, giving them the skills that they can utilise throughout their life. And I also feel that it's a step towards making them great life partners. When children are involved in the life cycle of a vegetable, planting a seed and then harvesting, they understand and appreciate the effort that goes into the process of farming food. Watering seedlings and transplanting them into prepared garden beds, they make a connection with the earth and they start to understand and appreciate where food comes from. Principals always want to know how any lesson that you're teaching within the school links to the curriculum. And the great thing about this program is that it links in so many ways. Aside from a significant link to science, it addresses environmental education and sustainability, examining how students can change their behaviour and make decisions that act for the environment. The program is only able to run due to its supporters, whether that be as a kitchen or a garden volunteer, skilled tradespeople offering their time and expertise to build gardens and kitchens, or community members donating materials. The community joined together to maintain the working vegetable garden, orchard and chickens. Lessons are a fabulous way to teach children a range of math and literacy concepts. From learning how to read a recipe to measuring out ingredients, lessons are full of learning. And children grasp these concepts easier when they're engaged in hands-on experiences, and all lessons incorporate these practical activities. Establishing the program at the school was a really big task. After plenty of fundraising, parent volunteers, generous donations from local businesses and lots of long hours and plenty of hard work, in 2015 the school had a working kitchen for 30 children, a vegetable garden large enough to grow produce to supplement meals for 240 children, an orchard and 20 chickens. Classes had commenced. Measuring success. As a teacher, we're always striving to get the best out of our students. And here are some of the observations I've made whilst teaching the program. Students are happy and engaged. They love having their parents and extended family assisting in the class, and they get to engage in practical lessons, culminating with a meal. And there's lots of happy, smiling faces. The feedback. The surveys conducted with parents, students and staff overwhelmingly support the implementation of this program. It's a draw card for new enrolments. The program is well regarded within the community, and parents are excited by the prospect that their children have the opportunity to learn practical lifelong skills and are educated on sustainability and environmental issues. We found that attendance actually improved on the days that the children were in the kitchen garden lessons, particularly the days that they were cooking. And the students were starting to observe better habits, thoroughly washing their hands before meal preparation, including more vegetables in their diet and engaging in physical activity during garden classes. Now, how does this link with waste reduction? At the beginning of this year, Terrigal was into its 5th year of the program, and the student cohort currently being taught the program had started their kindergarten education in a school setting where they had a vegetable garden, chooks, an orchard and an environmental club where they could participate in weekly, and they understood where their food came from. Several initiatives had commenced at school. Classes were collecting their morning fruit scraps for the kitchen garden students to compost. The school canteen was feeding all their green waste to our school chickens. Every class had a paper recycling bin, and a waste-free Wednesday movement had started where students were encouraged to bring waste-free lunches. The school was successful in gaining a grant from Remondis, using these funds to build a 3-bay compost bin to compost fruit scraps collected daily from their crunch and sip. And the children had become more involved in environmental club activities, and it was now cool to help out in the garden, and quite often this was chosen over playtime. When the Rumballara Education Centre gave our school the opportunity to participate in a waste audit, it was a great chance for the school to closely examine our current waste disposal methods. We could identify areas for improvement and put strategies into place to make changes. A date was set for February this year. A small team came out to school to conduct the audit. They were well prepared and enthusiastic, and Terrigal was their first school, and they were jumping in at the deep end. Each day, our school collected waste from 850 students and approximately 60 teaching and administrative staff. A 24-hour collection was gathered with a total of 32 bags. And the task of sorting the rubbish was huge. It took hours, it was backbreaking, and it was really smelly. We involved as many of our students as we could, and the waste was placed into categories, weighed, measured, and results were tabled. And before the data was even reviewed, there were some glaringly obvious issues we had to address. Our students were placing their used popper, small milk and juice containers in the bin, and we were throwing away money. And if anyone's ever worked in a public school, we don't have a lot of money, so we couldn't be doing that. With an average of 200 recyclable small milk products purchased every week through our canteen, the school could potentially collect $800 each year recycling these products alone. Students also purchased other beverages, and these items could also generate more recycling revenue for the school. Recyclable items were being brought in from home, and they were also being placed in the general waste bins. A solution was just to locate recycling bins throughout the school and labelling them to identify the items that were to be placed in them. And these stickers were attached on the side of the bins, emptied on a weekly basis and stored in a container at school, and we were on our way to making some money. This simple solution incurred absolutely no expense to the school, and it generated an income. The students were notified of the profits made, and a group decision of how the funds were to be spent within the school would be reached. We found there were lots of small changes we could make that required the children to slightly change their actions to form new habits. An example of this were the children were currently recycling their classroom paper. What they didn't know was the paper placed in the recycling bins needed to be of a minimum size. Small crumpled bits of scraps of paper from worksheets couldn't be placed in the recycled bin. A simple solution was just to get the children to place these small scraps of paper into the classroom fruit scraps bin. Our compost needed more carbon. Small scrap paper could easily serve this purpose. Once this was brought to the teacher's attention, they just gave a small 2-minute demonstration of this recycling tip. And the children slowly started to follow the new process, and a new habit was formed. Both the children and the adults involved in the audit were shocked at the amount of food that was wasted. Whole sandwiches, whole pieces of fruit, unopened yogurts, lots of things. It was terrible. When the food waste was weighed, we discovered we were collecting 40 kilograms of food scraps every day. We were already composting our fruit scraps, but now we needed to work on collecting food waste from our recess and lunch breaks. And before the idea of working out how we're going to compost all these 40 kilograms of waste, we needed to look at why parents are packing so much food for their children. The teachers started discussions with the students about the amount of food that they were bringing each day, and if they didn't want to eat all their lunch, they could just simply take it home. And that would then start a conversation between parents and children about waste minimisation and how families could change their current habits. The school newsletter was also used to convey this message. A committee of students and teachers and parent representatives met and discussed strategies we could implement in an effort to reduce our waste. In addition to the changes made by the students to reduce waste, the school looked at other ways we could include the parents. The P&C sold keep cups, and they were encouraging parents to bring them in to school events to cut down on waste. The Mother's and the Father's Day stalls no longer wrap their gifts in cellophane or place them in plastic bags. And the children were encouraged to have reusable bags. And at the school disco, fruit and tap water were offered in place of packaged food and beverages that were usually served. Changes that we can make at Terrigal. For the school to implement real change, it needs to come from the top. Professional development sessions on school environment policy and classroom waste management practices need to take place at the beginning of each year, at the beginning of the term, or whenever new staff are employed. Ongoing professional development for staff, reviewing our current practices and adopting new initiatives, and teachers need to look at changes that they can make within their classroom. They need to be more selective about the types of classroom supplies they request from parents. Examples of this could be replacing wet wipes with reusable dishcloths and trying to discourage the use of glue sticks. We engaged teachers and the parent community to discuss a waste and litter reduction plan. We wanted to create one that was unique to our environment and a management system that created the needs for our school. And when teachers meet with parents, the message needs to be communicated that they need to look after the school environment and that students are concerned about reducing their environmental footprint. Before children commence their formal years of schooling, they attend orientation classes, and these sessions are perfect opportunities for teachers to educate new students and their parents in ways they can help look after the school environment, encouraging reusable lunch boxes, recycling beverage containers, composting food scraps, not overpacking lunches. Each school should have a policy addressing the school practices on reducing, reusing and recycling waste. This should be a document that's written in collaboration with the community, students and staff, and it should be reviewed regularly and changed when needed. Parents and children should be familiar with the content, and the details of the document should be embedded in the everyday practices of the school. It's really important that children should be an integral part of the process, and students need to be involved in decision-making, implementation and the review of any initiatives put into practice. If their ideas are listened to and included, they feel respected and they'll take ownership. Providing real-life experiences and first-hand learning through teaching food education has been a great beginning for Terrigal Public School. The school culture has changed, with staff and students more closely scrutinising the choices they make and the impact this has on their environment. Wiping out waste isn't a project, it's a lifestyle. It should be incorporated into our school values, as it demonstrates the responsibility for our students and the community to take action towards being accountable for the environment. And I'd like to finish by showing you a video that was made by the Rumballara Education Centre when they conducted their waste audit. It sums up what we want to achieve in our school and the direction we are now headed.
in all your bins, and there's bags within bags within bags. So the amount of things that you have in your school, around the playground, and inside the classrooms and the staff and office, that's all of these bags. And we've now reduced your waste, your general waste, to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's just general waste. That is all that needs to go into your skip bins. Over here in a sec, when I show you, this is how we've reduced it and moved it into the different categories we talked about. And most importantly, the food waste and food scraps, which is the heaviest, that is taking